Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, a classic tale retold very quickly. The story begins in the Arctic Circle with Captain Walton and his crew. A man is trying to attract their attention. The man is in poor shape but wants to tell them his tale before he dies. His name is Victor Frankenstein. His story begins whilst at university in the German town of Ingolstadt. Victor began to explore the idea that the body is not just a machine and that perhaps a person could be grown from living tissue. As the months went by, Victor's work took over and he often forgot to eat and sleep. Finally, he discovered the formula that he believed would work. In his room, Victor spent many hours building a tank that was larger than a man. He hired various people to secretly buy chemicals from the apothecary and then deliver them to his lodgings. When he had found a formula that he believed would work, Victor just needed to wait for a thunderstorm. One evening, the weather changed and there was a tremendous storm. Using a knife, Victor cut a strip of flesh from his thigh and threw it into the chemicals in the tank. He created an electric current using the power of the storm. Exhausted and in agony from the wound to his leg, Victor fainted and was found later by his friend Henry, who took him to hospital. When he awoke, Victor was worried to discover that he had already been in hospital for 3 days. However, it was a further 10 days before he could leave and return home. Victor nervously made his way over to the tank. Suddenly, a hand shot up out of the liquid. Petrified, Victor ran from the room as the enormous, hideous creature began to emerge from the tank. Victor avoided coming home for some time, and when he did return, he found that the monster had gone. There was also a letter waiting for him from Elizabeth, his sweetheart, delivering the terrible news that his brother William was dead, and Justine, his nanny, was on trial for his murder. Even though Victor had a terrible suspicion that the monster somehow had something to do with his brother's murder, Justine was found guilty and was hanged. Over the next few weeks, Victor decided that he needed some time to deal with his emotions and set off for Chamonix. When out walking, Victor noticed that someone else was on the mountain. It appeared to be an enormous man. His heart sank. The creature had found him. When the creature eventually caught up with Victor, it confirmed that it had killed William. The monster had taught itself many things, but did not know the difference between good and evil, due to being left alone by Victor. The creature explained that after leaving the laboratory and reaching a village, it was chased away by the villagers with sticks. The monster told Victor that it wanted a companion, and as long as Victor created a mate for it, it would leave him alone. Otherwise, it would kill the people that Victor loved, one by one. That night, Victor crept out and reopened Justine's grave, and he took some of her flesh, from which he would create the monster's bride. And so Victor began to create the monster's bride. As the creature's companion began to grow, it started to look like Justine, but in a terrible way. Victor decided that he could not create a second Justine and that he must kill the creature's bride. As he did so, Victor turned to the window and saw the monster watching him, vowing that it would carry out its threats. Victor and Elizabeth are married and they honeymoon far away. On their honeymoon night, when Elizabeth went to bed, Victor stood guard outside to protect his bride. He anxiously looked around for any signs of the monster. His blood ran cold when he heard a noise coming from the bedroom, followed by a blood-curdling scream. Elizabeth had been murdered, and Victor vowed to pursue the murderer to the ends of the earth. Having finished his tale, Victor Frankenstein died. Captain Walton wasn't sure whether to believe Victor Frankenstein's incredible story, but was saddened by his death. He wondered whether it was possible for a creature to be created in the way that Victor had described. Suddenly, the monster appeared on the ship. The monster had tracked Victor down to ask for forgiveness, but sadly learns that Victor has died. The creature tells Captain Walton of his abandonment and that he has not been taught the difference between good and evil. He explains that he did not mean any harm to anyone, but that he is desperately lonely. The captain offers to take the creature back with them. The creature turns down his offer and suddenly leaps from the ship, never to be seen again. And so ends the dark and frankly quite depressing story of Frankenstein.